You should always be saying yes. Always don't turn stuff down. You should always be open to new ideas and new relationships.
Hey guys, we have none other than Guy Kawasaki on the show. So Guy Kawasaki is famous for being the chief evangelist of Apple, and he has impacted us in so many ways. He's currently the chief evangelist of Canva, which we extensively use. He also is the brand ambassador of Mercedes-benz. And more importantly, he's the writer of 50 books. Recently finished the book, Wise Guy, Lessons from Life. So I really love the book. Guy, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to reach your listeners and viewers.
Yeah, Guy, so just to give you a context so we can give a better value to our audience. So I am the head of Proko Next Academy. So we are the leading coding and digital marketing school here in Southeast Asia. I'm currently here in Malaysia. I think you've been to parts of the world here. So a lot of people go through our academy and become tech founders or become coders or become digital marketers or marketers like yourself. So it's great having you on the show. And I cannot believe I'm speaking to you because I've been following you for, I think, at least more than 10 years. And about 10 years ago, it was the time when you were promoting The Art of the Start. And I was in college at that time, and I could not afford the book, The Art of the Start. I went and downloaded, I think you had a slide share of The Art of the Start, and I printed it out. And at that time in college, I really loved reading all your material and your books that I think I wrote most of my papers on. Guy Kawasaki said this. This is what you do, being the evangelist of Apple. So thanks so much for all the content and all you do. You even impacted people right across the earth.
Cool.
Yeah, so I love your book as well. So can you briefly tell us why do you call it a wise guy? Lessons from a life. Like, what is a wise guy?
Well, the wise guy is, I'm trying to, in the United States, wise guy has several connotations. One is that you're a kind of smart aleck. Another is that you're a mafia guy. And I wanted to just play on those definitions and really provide wisdom, which is not related to either of those definitions. But, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. I think the most used word in your book is not wise guy, but you called yourself multiple times a lucky guy in the book.
Yeah.
And I think
that's true too.
Yeah. With most things, I think you have the talent and you had the opportunity. So luck definitely played a big role in your journey, and really love the book to see your journey. And one of the things I really loved about your book is you talk about the other book that most impacted your life in the beginning of the book that made you write so many books. So can you briefly tell us about that?
Yeah, so I talk about the books that impacted my life just as I hope that my book impacts people's lives. So the books that impacted my life, well, the major one, there's two really. So one is called If You Want to Write by Brenda Hewland. And it's for writers, but it can apply to anybody who's in a creative kind of function. Entrepreneur, programmer, artist, whatever it is. So that's one. And the second one is Influence by Bob Cialdini. And that's a book about social psychology. So those books were very formative for me.
Yeah. And since reading that book, you have written so many books. So how has writing books help you in your career or in your business?
Well, I never really wrote books to, quote, help my career. In fact, when people tell me that they want to write a book because it's going to help them get speeches or it's going to help them get consulting or position themselves as a thought leader, I tell them not to write the book because, you're supposed to write a book because you have something to say, not because you want to use it as a marketing device. And most books don't work as a marketing device because people see through your motivation. So I didn't write this book to position me or, do anything like that. I wrote it because, well, two reasons: royalty, and I wanted to pass on his wisdom.
Yeah, that's great, and great learnings from your book as well, and from your many other books. I cannot leave this interview without asking you for a Steve Jobs story, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you will say in every keynote.
Yeah.
But I love the part of your book of the Gospel of Steve Jobs. So what I want to ask you, is there any story that you haven't told many people in regards to Steve Jobs?
Well, I usually tell one particular story. So that's the story I love to tell. Okay.
Yeah.
So the story is that I'm working in my cubicle. He shows up with somebody I've never met, and he asks me about a company. And I tell him that the company is mediocre, the software is mediocre, it's not important for Apple. And then he says to me, I want you to meet the CEO of the company, totally bushwhacking me. And that's just a great insight into how Steve Jobs operated. You were always being tested.
Yeah. And I love how you said in the book, or you said many times, that tough bosses and tough teachers are the greatest teachers of life.
Yes. I had a really hard English teacher in high school. And of course, I had a really hard boss, Steve Jobs. And as I look back, I think that the teachers who were the toughest and the bosses that were the toughest are the ones that you learn the most from. Many people try to find the easiest teacher and the easiest professor and the easiest boss. And I think that's a mistake. You don't learn the most from them.
Yeah. Can you tell us how Steve Jobs was tough? I think you said it in other places, but how was exactly he tough?
Well, he was tough in that he was very demanding. He was a perfectionist, and he knew what he wanted. And, sometimes you work for a boss and you know more than them, right? So if anything, you may have to dumb it down for them, but you can definitely outsmart your boss. There are very few people who could outsmart Steve Jobs, if any. And so I think that was the key, that he truly was a visionary and high IQ, high intelligence. Now, a lot of people like to claim that they're a visionary, and I would say that they're flattering themselves. They have no clue. In American business, there's been Steve Jobs, Walt Disney, Thomas Edison, and Elon Musk. There have been 4 or 5 ever. So I think that's the key, that he truly was a visionary.
Yeah. And I myself have worked with a lot of tough bosses, and some of them are really brilliant, and they are tough because they are really that good, and they expect that from everyone. And in your experience, who are the people that worked best with a person like Steve Jobs?
Well, it's someone who's tough and smart. If you're just tough but not smart, you're gonna get fired. And if you're smart but not tough, you're just gonna collapse. You have to be both.
Yeah. That's great. That's great insight. Yeah, you have to be both, and you need to manage people as well. Actually, among your resume, Guy, I'm the most impressed. You have done so many things, but I'm the most impressed that you are the brand ambassador of Mercedes-benz.
Yeah.
Not many business people are brand ambassadors, right? Like most brand ambassadors, celebrities, athletes. So I really would love to hear the story, and for you to tell my audience the story of how you became the brand ambassador of Mercedes.
Well, I became the brand ambassador of Mercedes because I ran into some of the marketing people from Mercedes at South by Southwest. And I told them that I was coming to Germany about a month later and I would love to visit a factory. So they set me up to visit the factory of AMG, where AMG was making the GT, their sports car. And I was the first person allowed in the factory from the public. And so we just got to be friends. And I said, we should do more stuff. And I work with a lot of car companies, but, I'll just go exclusive with you guys. And, one thing led to another. I've been brand ambassador for about 3.5 years now with Mercedes.
Yeah, I think great marketers are generally great networkers. Yeah,
Yeah.
And a lot of the stories that you tell in your book, it's the opportunity and also building that deep relationship with everyone that you know, that you get, get the opportunities that you have. So
Yeah.
there's a great lesson there in, building great relationships and seizing the opportunity to get that opportunity. Yeah. So and you are also the evangelist for Canva, and I really love using Canva. In fact, in our academy, we know that content is the foundation for marketing. If social media and digital, without content, you can't really stand out. So we teach our students to use Canva as part of our course. And in fact, a lot of our marketing material, we use Canva to create our images. And even our designers who are very great at Photoshop, they use Canva as well, because that's where you efficiently create the best designs. Can you also tell the story, since we're talking about opportunity, how you also became the evangelist of Canva?
Yeah. So I have a person who helps me with my social media. Her name is Peg Fitzpatrick. And so, 5 years ago or so, I was already active on Twitter. And my theory on Twitter is every tweet has to have a graphic. And she was using Canva to make my graphics. And Canva noticed that I was using Canva. So they tweeted me. I happened to see that tweet and responded. Then I asked Peggy, is this the company you use? Do you like them? Should I help them? And she said, yes to all of the questions. So I met with them, and one thing just led to another.
Yeah, and it's almost the same as the Mercedes story, that it's a connection formed across the world, and a partnership formed because both of you took the opportunity and both of you built that real connection.
Yeah, and I think a very important thing, some wisdom from this is, you should always be saying yes, always don't put stuff down. You should always be open to new ideas and new relationships. And you should maybe not plan as much, because none of this was planned. So when I plan stuff, it never happens. It's when I don't plan that it happens.
Yeah. So a lot of times you are an evangelist, even back in your Apple days. So what exactly is an evangelist?
Evangelism comes from a Greek word meaning bringing the good news. So what an evangelist does is bring the good news. I brought the good news of Macintosh. I am bringing the good news of Canva. So Macintosh democratized computing. Canva has democratized graphics. So that's what we do. We democratized design. We made it so that anybody, even you, could make great designs.
Anyone can make a great book cover to great social media graphics and infographics.
I don't know if you know this, but we have a 16:9 template for making presentations. And now with Canva, you can save to the native PowerPoint format. So you design it in Canva, you save or export to PowerPoint, and then you can run it with PowerPoint. You can also run it with Canva, but sometimes, like I speak a lot, and I have to give my presentation in PowerPoint to somebody because they're going to insert my slides into the master slides. And so I can't be using a separate app. They have to put my slides into a PowerPoint presentation. So now you can go from Canva to PowerPoint.
Wow, that's great. Great learnings. I've never used Canva for presentations before. Maybe from some images, but not really presentation.
Well, now you can have beautiful presentations.
Yeah, I used to use Canva to create GIFs for videos.
Yeah.
So you could actually save it as a video, and that's how I created a lot of ads. I used to create a lot of ads with Canva as well. Great tool. And
you created a lot of what with it?
Ads, Facebook ads with Canva.
Cool. Very cool.
So if you cannot find a way to make video, so you can use Canva, and the paid version has the GIF video version, and you can make your graphics move, and that becomes an ad.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. And you talked about, giving presentations. So can you give us some wisdom when, you give your keynotes?
Yeah. So first of all, regarding slides, I think you should have only about 10 slides.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the background should be black. I think the font should be a minimum of 30 points and white. And I recommend that, your mindset when you're giving a speech is that you have to entertain people. And if you entertain them, you will probably also inform them. But if you only think you have to inform them, then you're going to put up too many slides, too much information, too many graphs, too many everything. So speaking is about entertainment, not information. If you entertain, you can probably inform. But if you inform, that doesn't mean you'll entertain, and it doesn't mean that you will capture your audience. So always be thinking, how can I entertain them while providing information? And then I would say, practice. Get to the venue early so that you're very comfortable. Try to meet people in the first few rows before you go on. So when you look out, you see people who you've already met, you took pictures with, they like you, they're smiling, it builds your confidence. Try to get a small room so the room feels packed. These are all little tips that can make you a better speaker.
Yeah.
Oh, one more. Tell stories. Always tell stories. Stop using adjectives about patent pending, curve jumping, paradigm shifting. Just tell a story of why you created your product, why you created your service, how you came to do this. Stories are much better than adjectives.
I think I took your advice 10 years ago. I think 10 years ago you already had this advice, and I'll tell you a true story. What happened? 10 years ago. I was about 21, and I was giving my final year presentation of my research.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be a research presentation in front of 3 professors.
Yeah.
I sort of gave the best presentation because I was a big fan of you and big fan of Steve Jobs at the time. And I had 1 words and very few images and telling stories. But the thing was, in front of an educational crowd, you need at least some data. You need at least some pie charts or some data to be a bit more educational. That's my experience in that. But if you're giving a keynote or giving a speech at a conference, by all means, you can do that.
So are you saying that you didn't get your degree or you didn't pass?
Oh, I got my degree. I got best presentation, but I got a feeling that the professors, people in education, didn't really seen anything like that, or couldn't really see the substance. They wanted to see data. There were some slides on data, but it was not too much data centric. I think if you're a doctor presenting at a medical conference, perhaps you need very data driven slides, and you need to be conveying more information. So that's what I think about that anyway.
Maybe in this circumstance, yes.
Yes. But just a side note. Yeah. And a lot of our graduates, learn coding or learn digital marketing. So at different points of your career, sometimes you were part of a great company, and sometimes you quit the great company to start your own thing, start your own venture. So a lot of questions I get nowadays is it better to be an entrepreneur to start something or to work for a big company?
Well, I don't think there's any right or wrong answers to that. Everybody's different. People have different interests, different passions. They also have different circumstances. I mean, if you have 4 kids and you can't give the 60 or 70 hours a week and you need medical insurance, well, then you go work for a big company. On the other hand, if you have 0 kids and you're living with your parents, then go for it. And some people like risk and some people don't, but you have to like risk to be an entrepreneur. So there's a lot of variables. And
it's the sort of in 2019, it's easier part to start. Distribution is cheap, marketing is much cheaper, so a lot of people are starting companies. It's easier to start your own thing nowadays, so a lot of people are going.
It's much easier to start, and basically everything you need. Like marketing is social media, which is free, and the tools are open source, and you have virtual teams using high-speed internet, and you can crowdsource ideas. You can crowd fund instead of raising venture capital. So basically everything you want is either cheap or free. So I think it's a lot easier to start a company today. Now, this is good news and bad news. Well, if it's a lot easier to start a company, it's also a lot easier for everybody else to start a company. And therein lies the rub that now you're competing with so many more people.
Yeah, that's the entry point is much lower, so anyone can start anything with any idea. It all depends on the execution.
Yep.
So being from an academy, you stress the importance of education and learning, and nowadays a lot of people say don't go to college, learn a skill, and at your age I think you are still learning. So what are your wisdom when it comes to learning or education?
Well, just to understand that learning is not an event. It's not an event that ends when you graduate college or high school. Learning is a process, and that should continue for your whole life. I could almost make the argument that learning truly begins when you graduate, not when you enter school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and continuously learn, as you grow, and even when you are starting your own company or working for someone.
Well, especially when you're starting your company,
Yeah. So what I love about your book is you also talk about, I think in most of your speeches you said about creating meaning, making a dent in the universe, instead of focusing on making money. And a lot of our graduates are coders and tech people. So, what is your advice to someone who is starting out now? How can they focus on making meaning?
Well, the key here is that if the sole motivation for starting something is to make money, I think that's a shallow goal. And my observation is that if you make people's lives better, democratizing computing, democratizing design, entertaining them, informing them, anything like that, then if you do that successfully, probably you'll also make money. Whereas if you just want to make money, literally, that's all you want to do is make money, go be an investment banker. Don't be an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So when you were part of Apple, did you have that sense of, you are making a big difference in the world?
Yes, absolutely. Steve Jobs convinced us that if Macintosh was not successful, it would be the end of the earth. I mean, it would be totalitarianism. It would be, just like George Orwell, 1984.
Great stuff. And a lot of companies tend to try to achieve meaning. But as you said in your book, there are a lot of companies who are doing things that seem stupid.
Yeah.
You said that you didn't join Yahoo because it seemed like a stupid idea at that time.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I would say it was a stupid idea, but I didn't get it. At the time, Yahoo was just a collection of Jerry and David's favorite websites. It was a directory, right?
Yeah.
And so I just didn't see the model. I didn't see, why that mattered, and it was too far to drive. I mean, there's a lot of stupid reasons on my part for not taking that interview.
Yeah, and today there might be a lot of, back to your example, you said YouTube was exploding because people are creating videos of Coke, Mentos in Coke. So a stupid idea that you would think nowadays is things like Musical.ly and TikTok, where people are just like lip syncing or creating small short videos.
Yeah.
But those things might be the next big thing. Yeah, you never know. You never know. And yeah, that's great. Like, you know, any idea or anything that you think it's a bit silly might be the next big thing.
Oh. Yeah, there are some stupid ideas that succeed, but I'm not saying that every stupid idea succeeds. You know, don't wake up in the morning saying, I gotta find a stupid idea. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's just that some stupid ideas turn out to be smart, but not every stupid idea turns out to be smart.
Yeah. You have to be smart about the stupid ideas.
Yeah. And lucky.
Yeah. And I think I've run through most of your book and most of the questions, but you are also advisor to a lot of tech startups. And what normally do you advise on when you are advisor? Do you advise on marketing?
Usually marketing and product introduction, and how to use social media. Basically, marketing is my expertise.
Yeah. Being such a legend in the marketing industry. So.
Okay.
Sorry?
That's okay. So, have I given you all you wanted?
Yeah. Like you also have like a big following on social media. So on Twitter, you have about 1.5 million followers, and like also a lot of followers on LinkedIn. And after this, I'm going to connect with you on LinkedIn. So hopefully you accept my request. So what? Sorry?
Maybe.
Yeah. So what wisdom do you have when it comes to social media?
Well, the greatest wisdom I can pass for social media is always try to provide value. Information, analysis, entertainment, whatever it is, but value. And if you provide value, then you earn the right to promote. So think of Wikipedia and NPR, National Public Radio in the US, where Wikipedia and NPR provides great content, so they earn the right to ask for donations, and they are quite successful. So the key is to earn that right.
Yeah, so it just provide value so you can earn the right to have a large following. Yeah. So before I go, I'm actually in the Far East in Malaysia. So any thoughts or any experiences you have with the Far East?
Only that it's so humid there. I mean,
yeah.
The humidity is high, and the food is good, and the people are friendly. So.
What about the tech scene or the marketing scene? Anything you've seen?
Honestly, I have not had that much contact with entrepreneurs there, so I don't know. I mean, my experience going around the world is that entrepreneurs are more or less the same all over the world.
Yeah.
And, they view the world as half full, not half empty, and they're trying to dent the universe.
Yeah.
And they're even romantic. Entrepreneurs are the same all over.
Yeah. All right, Guy, thank you. Sorry?
Well, it's been a real pleasure. I suppose it's really early in the morning there, so thank you for doing this.
Thank you for your time, Guy.
All righty.